Good morning, and thank you for coming back to another video. I appreciate y'all coming back. Happy Thanksgiving to those who are in the United States and celebrating their Thanksgiving Day today. I'm going to be taking my morning this morning to do a little work for the Lord. I read through some of the comments on the Finding the Way video, which were, it was a silent video, because I really thought I wanted to just present the information and allow the one to speak one-on-one with you. But I did find by reading a lot of the comments that some of your devices are much smaller than mine, the screen that I'm looking at and actually working off of, and so I thought it would be best to take your advice and go ahead and speak forward the words in the video today. God bless you all. Thank you for coming back. We are going to be talking about the way. This is something that the Lord has been speaking to us about for many years now, and I've come to realize that all of the different aspects that He has presented in past videos in regards to the way was all the things that He was trying to show us as the way. And I think if I review just a few things in this video today, you will see that this really is something that He was pointing to. Now I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind and pray. Pray over it for confirmation, straight from the Father, and just see if it resounds within you. So the first thing that I was trying to show on the video was just 4 little slides that said this is probably one of the most important videos I have ever done. And it links to quite a few of my past videos and what the Lord was trying to show us as the way. And if you are spiritually ready to receive, you will know that this is truth. And you will know that this is what Yeshua was pointing to all along. Now, the next thing that I shared was a message dated February 26, 2019 from the Lord. And I had gone into prayer that day and welcomed the Father, the Holy Spirit, and Yeshua to say as they desired to say. And I just sat to listen. And this is what I received. He said, "My love, listen to me now, for there will be times to come that will be met with great force, great resistance among the brethren, among the sheepfold, for I have seen these things to come and know of them. They are hindrances to my children. There are things that have been given unto them, granted to them, that will help aid them, should they call upon them in these times to come. My ways are being made a way in your world today. Many can see the straight pathways that are before them, but others cannot. It can be found upon your knees, my children. Should you so desire, I shall grant these things to you. Multiple ways can be found, but only one path is mine. Only one path is the narrow way that has been provided for you. Outstretch your arms and hands to me, my children, for I am there. And you can reach out to touch me. These things will be given unto them, as it is in their whole heart to do so. My way upon the world will be seen and known by many. And who can know these things but I, my children of the world? Only those who have been given such information, only those granted to know. No harm shall become them. They shall walk forth mightily in great glory and grandeur, as it is bestowed unto them. My way shall be seen and known. Yes, my child, and many will know from whence forth it is come upon them. My way upon the world will make a way for others. It will provide a path for others to follow, a helping hand given unto them in times of need and despair. My way will be provided should they seek it and should they ask for it. And then I just identified Matthew 7:7-8, which says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. My way is great joy, my children, great joy abounding upon you. There are no hindrances there, no heaviness of spirit. No, on the contrary, it's exactly opposite. It is the lightness of heart and faith. Guidance upon the way and movement is airy and free. There are no more hindrances there, no more heaviness or burdens, no more weight upon your shoulders or harnesses of the heart. My way is beautiful and free, encompassing all that purpose their way to be. I am there, my child, awaiting for the call such as you, for it shall come forth very soon now, my children. Hinder not your flow within me. Remain in your stance, without withdrawal or retreat. My purposes among you shall come to be. Come to be they shall, for I will make it so. All things spoken to you, my child, shall come forth in great grandeur and expectancy. So watch for it and know it is coming forth. Hold fast now to the words that I have spoken unto you this day, for there are many who will need the guidances of such. Watch for me in the coming days, and know that I have my eyes set upon you. No harm shall befall you, and your ways upon the world will change to my way very soon, my children. Hold fast and know that I am forthcoming for my own, and they shall be with me in glory very soon, my righteousness abounding for many to see and know and taste that it is good. And so the next part of the video, I just put a name slide up, basically that identifies we're going to be talking about the way, and the way being the straight and narrow path. And I did go through and put up an introduction, and I want to read that to you because it is very important that we talk about some of these things, because there's going to be some questions. Naturally, there's going to be. So in the time that Yeshua was here, you know, Yeshua didn't come for all in the time that he was here. He came for spiritual Israel, meaning those who were spiritually ready for the information that he was trying to share. Hence the reason he spoke in parables, or at least one of the reasons he spoke in parables. So what I'm trying to do is to provide a template, and the way template, in essence, to give direction for those who are ready. I have always shared information that some cannot grasp at that particular time, but I've always asked that they put it on the back burner and come back to it later. And I ask again for the same thing with this video. And keep this in mind, that your way will become his way. So I'm not here to teach you, and really nor can others. Only the one can do that, and only he can do it one-on-one. So most videos in the past on my channel are they're pointing to this in one way or another. The studies that I have shared is how the Lord taught me and is showing us the way. And when I mean the way home. I know that there will be some who'll discount what is being shared here, and I know that there will be some to criticize. My thought with that is that, it's not like that hasn't happened before to me or even to him by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were the strong force of religion on the earth at that time. So I know it will be Christians who will discount and criticize. But I ask that you seriously think about something. What if? Just what if? What if what I'm sharing is truth? And what if it does take all that I'm sharing to get home? And where are you in the process? I had to assess where I was. I had to ask. I had to seek. Will it hurt you to work on the fruit of the tree of life, or will it help you, no matter what your belief is? Will it hurt you to listen and be obedient to the one true God, or will it help you in everyday life? The Word is alive and living and still speaking today, regardless of what some will say. The Word is also known as the Logos, and we did a study on this. And the Logos means the thought, the mind, as well as the speech for the Word. So, if you take a look at what I'm going to present and you don't think it's going to help you, move on to what you think is best for you. And if you're not sure, then put it on the back burner and pray for confirmation. But if something does resound within you, run. Run as fast as you can to do as the one instructs and teaches. And you may already be on this path. And this may provide some clarity to what you have understood. I don't have all the answers, but I can share what I understand up to this point. I pass a little shop downtown when I'm driving home from work, and in the window of the shop is the name of the shop, which says Esse Quam Verdi. It means to be rather than to seem, or to act, not just to seem to be. And I found that it caught my attention and had become a thought provoker every time I saw it, especially in view of what the Lord had been telling me that I would be, I would become, I would come forth, and all of these things had been shared, in past videos. That has a link to just being and being born. So while all the religions seek God, it is impossible to know God without first knowing yourself. And Yeshua taught that there's only one true path to God, and this is true. An integral part of this path, though, is about self and knowing yourself. And none of the systems of religion today possess this important esoteric knowledge of self. Either it was removed or thrown away, or who knows what happened to it. It's written, though, in the Epistle of Peter and James, that if the sacred knowledge of the new covenant becomes lost, it will remain, even for those who really seek the truth, to always wander in error. So it's important about this knowing thyself. In the Gospel of Thomas, I think it's the third entry that he had, Jesus said, If those who lead you say to you, see the kingdoms in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. And if they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. And rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. And when you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. How can it possibly be suggested by God that God does not know us? I believe Thomas's words were intentionally written in that specific manner for a reason. To the degree that these same words were repeated by Yeshua's statement that should be heeded by every person professing to believe, that not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the person who does what my Father in heaven wants. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not force out demons and do many miracles by the power and authority of your name? Then I will tell them publicly, I have never known you. Get away from me, you evil people. So being known is important. And we're going to touch base on that because even the messages from the Lord is talking about being known. So Crenshaw said, these words are spoken from a universal perspective and apply to all people of all religions who have failed to fulfill the laws in accord with the original objectives of the very purpose of creation itself. He goes on to say, thus the Jews who maintain that they are the chosen people are not. The Christians who proclaim they are saved and will go to glory are not. Those who call themselves Muslims are not. The yogis, gurus, and monks who promote Krishna consciousness and God awareness are not. And the New Age who portray themselves as the direct consciousness are not. And my thought was, but what is really interesting, though, is that many of those are focused on the same ending: enlightenment, peace, unity. 1 Corinthians 8:3, and I'm going to quote the New International Version. But the man who loves God is known by God, which indicates that those who fail to do the will of God cannot love God, and therefore is not even known by God. So being known is very, very important. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I put up a picture, and I don't know if you can see it, but if you can, it is nothing more than the water and the sparkles of the sunlight on the ripples of the water being shown. And there's two things in this world that I absolutely love to see and hear. One is the waves crashing on the beach and seeing the lights on the waters. And the other is the birds singing and eating. So two things that I dearly love. I would rank those as my absolute favorites. So I was on the beach in May of this year, and I was sitting on the beach alone, and I was seeing the waves coming toward me, and they were crashing at the surf. And the light that was on the water that day was just tremendous. It was just so bright. And it seemed to ride the wave in, cascading into like a froth of disappearing bubbles, only to return to where it came. And for a brief fleeting moment, we are the it, the now, only to be reintroduced to the new it, the new now, with the very next wave. It is continuous, it is abundant, never ending, ever flowing. The Lord said to me, "This is me, ever expanding into newness, flowing forth effortlessly with great strength. Can you see it?" he asks. "Can you see me coming forth within you? It is all well, my dove. All things must change form at some point. You have reached the point of no return." So I'm watching the birds fly with ease over the ocean, searching for food, for sustenance within the waters. And the abundance flows for them to reach down within just to grab. Same for us, it seems. Bring forth your abundance, the food, the staple of life. Who can know these things but I? No one, my love, but those I share them with, he says. To be abundant, one must know the simplicities of life, the general submission of it, the knowingness of all. One must be at odds here as well as at home with me. Polarity. Opposites must be one in wholeness. Does this make sense? He asks. I said, to be encompassed by one? That the opposites are abiding in that one? Essentially, the third wrapping around the two opposites to make one? He said, generally speaking, yes, and more. What do you think of this? I said, protection comes to mind. Let me get to the next screen. He continued, when others see the one, they cannot see the other two. It is not two or even three, it is one. My love, do you understand? I said, generally speaking, yes. But how does that relate to my experience of the energy wave? See, I had this wave of energy come across my body, and I've had it come several times. And it seems to come from the bottom to the top, like up the center of my body. This has happened, I don't know, probably 10 or more times. He said, my love, in time you will understand more, but for now, know that all is well. Your waves are coming forth. And I thought, oh my goodness, a long time ago he reminded me and told me that I would come forth among the wind and the waves. Sorry about the motorcycles out front. I guess the younger kids are having a good time in front of my house. He said I would come forth among the wind and the waves. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll remember that from years and years ago. You are coming forth, my love, unto eternity. Does this scare you? He asks. Now, I need to remind you all, or maybe I haven't shared it yet, but it was the Lord telling me that I didn't realize how close to eternity I was. That was something that he had said to me recently. I said, no, Lord, I'm not afraid. He said, you are one for the record books, my love, because you have overcome much. Your ways within you are changing to the glory of God within you, ever transforming to become one with him. He is your mercy, kindness, loving compassion, and more. He is your wealth among men. His ways will transform your soul. The mercy of God grants this to us, for our good and for the good of others. Transformation is key, my love. Intertwine with the love of God and stay entangled in that. He said, do you know why these things are coming to you? Because the wealth in me must be shared. It must be given unto others, for their benefit to grow, to become enlarged themselves. Truth cannot be hidden. It must be shown unto the world, although most will not understand it. In time, all will come to the understanding of it. And when that time comes, all will be well in the world. My mercy granted unto many is given as a gift, a result of nothingness received, that is kindness and love toward mankind. When one knows the gift of mercy, he never forgets. It grows in him to be shared unto others. Generosity is key. It must be shared to grow. Upon the wind and waves you will come, my love, forevermore. I await that day with particular desire, joy, and pleasure. And that was the end of the conversation that day on the beach. So I went into to share all of Romans 8 because there's a lot of good information in Romans 8. But the particular scripture that I wanted to just kind of go over is verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, those who are the called according to his purpose. For whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he predestined, these he also called. And whom he called, these he also justified. And whom he justified, these he also glorified. And then in verse 31 is through 35, I guess, is some more. But if you have time, please read over Romans 8. It's got a lot of good information in there. So I'm showing here, and I'm not sure if you all can see this image. Let me see if I can enlarge this particular image. This image was shown before in another video. Maybe you can see that now. I don't need you to read the words. I just wanted to tell you what I wrote here. So this was on December the 28th, 2018. I was given a dream, or it could have been a vision, while I was asleep. I was following a man in a red sweater with white narrow stripes across a planked bridge or bridges around an area, like 4 from a center point. And this drawing is really from that night, from what I saw. And I know, listen, I'm not a very good drawer, so y'all have to excuse me, but I just wanted to show you what I saw. So this shows us that either 4 ways to or from a center point via the bridges. The red and white sweater, wisdom was white, blood was red, and I cannot recall what bridge he was on or what direction we were going, but it was the 4 bridges. Excuse me, but I know I was following him to this center point. So sacred, meaning dedicated or set apart for the service or worship of deity, devoted exclusively to one's service or use as of a person or purpose. The synonyms for this was holy, blessed, consecrated, dedicated, and sanctified. So the white, when I looked at BibleStudy.org, the white was meaning to make radiant, righteousness, made pure. It symbolized wisdom, holiness, or the dedication to God. And, you know, red dyes back then, along with purple, were valuable. The color of red is like a flame of fire. It can symbolize sin, blood, covering, cleansing sin. And then the number 4, which is a cardinal number, it's really a sacred number, a complete number, which is why I went through and identified sacred. But there's a lot of 4 stuff in the Bible. So there's like 4 rivers in paradise, 4 winds, 4 corners of the earth. Anyway, 4 gates, 4 wings, 4 living creatures around the throne. So 4 is an interesting number. And then 40, 10 times 4, which is another sacred number, one of transformation. 40 years in the desert, land rested 40 years. The flood was 40 days. But more than that, the number 4 in Hebrew means dalet. And what dalet means is the door. It can also speak of a back and forth movement. So who is the door? We know that in John 10 it speaks of Yeshua being the door. So John 10:9, I am the door, and if anyone enters by me, he will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. And then, of course, a bridge it's just a structure, a path, a road, a canal across a river, a ravine, something intended to reconcile or form a connection between two things. The synonyms for that is link, join, connect, unite, overcome, and reconcile. What's the matter, buddy? My kitty is crying. So notice the circles in the past. Keep that in mind, because I was following this man in this red and white sweater to the center circle. So this was shared in the past. You can probably find that video. So let's talk about what else he's been showing us. Let's make this here, and I'm not worried about you all reading the words on it, but do you remember the thorn burr hinge? Remember the circle with the line, the circle with the line, circle? Do you remember that? And then we also talked about Orion's belt that had the circle and the line, circle and the line, circle. Okay, so here's just more circles and lines that the Lord has showed us over the years. And when I asked him what these two things were representing, he said they represent him. They represent him. So I thought that was interesting. The way that the thorn burr hinges are laid out is in exact direct correlation to the way Orion's belt is superimposed. It is not a straight line. It has a little bit of a curve to it. So I thought it was very interesting. Here he is leading us to all of these different studies that we're doing over the past, but what he's leading us to is the line, the circle, and the line. So let's continue on. So I'm just going to make this as big as I can right here, and it is nothing more than a picture of what appears to be stars in a night sky. So in our true form, for example, the true being that we really are, okay, we are a being of light. And God brought forth all souls in the beginning, and these souls were themselves the spark of the divine. And in the realm of souls, each individual soul would be perceived as a weak, flickering light, like a distant star. The more advanced the souls, the bigger and brighter the light. So according to the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, it teaches that all human souls have a common origin in the spiritual unity of the primordial man, sparks of which form the individual souls. The sin of Adam brought higher and lower souls into confusion, and as a result, every soul has to pass through a series of incarnations. Now, the soul itself has no sex. That is determined by the body, and that may vary from incarnation to incarnation. Thus, the pre-existent soul of man, which is portrayed as a spark of which forms the individual soul, are in fact the beings of light, each person's true form and self. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John, Jesus said, and if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Let he who has ears, let him hear. Let's see what scripture that was. Matthew 11. So according to the Zohar, all souls are subject to the trials of transmigration, and men do not know the designs of the Most High with regard to them. The souls must re-enter the absolute substance whence they have emerged. But to accomplish this, they must develop all the perfections, the germ of which was planted in them, and if they have not fulfilled this condition during one life, they must commence to another, a third, and so forth, until they have acquired the condition that fits them for reunion with God. So, Matthew 5, perfection, which is expressed on the Sermon on the Mount in the words of Yeshua. You, therefore, must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. So it appears that every time that we come into a new life, a new vessel, a new body, we are being perfected. We've talked about this being a learning place, a schoolhouse of sorts. But it's more than that. So what's going to constitute this perfection? And how is this condition brought about in the journey of the soul? So I want to show you something. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. What you're looking at is something from my journal. And it is just a drawing that here's paradise, the heaven, the yellow. And here's what I was just trying to draw. It was a picture of the world with the land masses in it, so I could get what was in my brain down on a piece of paper. So I've just taken a picture of what was in my journal. And this was from several years ago. And the Lord has taken me to several different resources. He's taken me to Kabbalah. He's taken me to Zohar. He's taken me to Buddhism. He's taken me to the Essenes, the Gospel of the Holy 12, St. Teresa of Avila. He's taken me to all kinds of others that were out sources and people that had wrote things, Jewish teachings. I can't even name everything that I have had. Enoch. I mean, I've tried to share some of the things that the Lord has had me dabble into. The things that he was trying to get me to see and understand were the general overall concepts. Not that he wanted me to look at that religion and say that was the religion. There was a nugget of truth in there that he wanted me to see and he wanted me to understand. So in this image, as you can see, this also points to the same cycles of death and rebirth, and the middle path, or what Jesus said was the straight and narrow path, and being allowed back into paradise where we go back to our Creator, our God. And in order to do this, we have to overcome and we have to be known in order to be headed to our heavenly home. So what I have here, and I'm not sure that you can see it all, but basically the yellow is the heavenly abode. The image below is the earth, or what I attempted to do with land masses. And I just wrote some things in it. So we come down, this is a big blue arrow, we come down and we have our life, and then we die, we are reborn again, we have our life, and then we die, we're reborn again, until we can make our way into perfection and be able to go back in front of our Creator God. So when I was looking at the Buddhism and trying to understand what they were saying and then trying to compare it to some of the other things, they basically said that the world was suffering. It was a life, death, birth, life, death, until nirvana was found. But that's that perfection. And the middle path that they talked about was finding the way. That was that middle path. And they had like an eightfold path that they talked about. But it was entering into the door of the immortal, we had to learn, we had to know, and we had to become. So notice some of those words that are being said even out of that. That's lining up with some of the things that the Lord has said and how we are to go about in the journey of our souls. So, he who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. I will write on him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write on him my new name. Revelation 3. He who overcomes shall go out no more. I thought that was pretty interesting. So many years ago, I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago, I read a Gnosis document about Adam and Eve and their experiences. And to be honest with you, I cried all the way through it. I really did. I came away from reading and understanding that document with a few things. They didn't know a whole lot about life on earth. They were like in a stage of innocence, making mistakes like a baby or a child would do. And all they wanted to do was die and return back to God in paradise. But they kept being brought back to life. So in essence, they were the Alpha creation. They were the first, the beginning. And as time went on and lives were lived, they had to become an Omega creation, the last, the ending. Alpha creation is where no experiential knowledge existed. And Omega is the enlightened light and knowing. So that kind of gives you a little bit different perspective of a particular scripture in Revelation 1. Because if the spark of the divine is the light that we have within us, that spark, then we have God within us. And so to read this, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, says the Lord, who is, who was, and who is to come, the Almighty. So think about that. When I read that, after I had gone through some of these studies, it opened up a whole new perception for me. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain also as our own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. Acts 17. So I want to share something else with you, and let me see if I can make my, my video's not going to work here. This video was just waves coming in. It was waves that were going to be crashing and receding, and I wanted, if you can kind of keep that image in your mind, I want to share something that happened back in 2021. So I'm standing on the beach one day in 2021, and the Lord said to me, you will return to the one. And I understood that each wave coming in was likened to a life, each having its purpose, each given their time, but they retreat back into the water and they come again. So when we are perfected through our many lives given to us, we do merge with the one and not return again. We go back to the source from which we came. So now that poses the question, well, why leave the Creator God to begin with? I mean, why would we even do that? I've often asked myself that question of God to understand why I would have placed myself in this world going through so many trials and suffering. I mean, why in the world would I have ever agreed to this? And the answer really is a simple one. To learn, to grow, mature, and become like the one. See, to merge back home to our God, to our Creator source, is the unity that we all desire. That's what we long for. So how long is it going to take us? Well, that really depends on you. Because not only is your soul learning here in the earthly realm, but your true self is in the heavenly, is also learning. And I've shared some things in the past where, I was in the spirit and I was learning how to fly and I was being taught different things and blah, 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 and how I actually felt like I was there. It was not a dream. I was there, right? I feel like part of that is what I was allowed to remember, to understand that it's just not here that we're going through things. We're also there going through things. So even if we're all learning here and there, it's all got to be finished at the same time. Like, okay, today's Thanksgiving and I'm going to put all of the food in the oven and everything, but it all has to be ready at the same time. Everything is separate, but it all has to be done and ready at the same time. Correct? Let's talk about a fetus and how it starts to grow in the womb. Each individual part of the body starts to form all together. They don't do one at a time, get one done, then do another, but they do it in conjunction. It's all together. The hearts and the lung grow at the same time, and they work in conjunction with each other. However, they're separate, right? They have their own separate purposes, and they have their own functions, but they are still yet part of the whole. The same pattern helps us understand that the parts of the soul that we have here in a three-dimensional world, and how the journey of the soul must mature both in the heavenly realm and the earthly realm to become. Now, we talked about that word become. We know that that means to be born, to have a birth. We know what that word meant. So the Lord said to me years ago, you will be known as I am known. I can remember talking to Petra about it, and she said to me, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I have no idea. I had no idea what it meant. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the true meaning of this I just understood recently. Because you must be known. The truth is, you must be known by God. The Gospel of Thomas speaks of this, speaking on a select group of people who will fulfill certain requirements. They are known by God. For example, then you will become known. So Matthew 7:13, there is a way that seems right to man, but its end is the way of death. Proverbs 14, for people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Hosea 4. If it is indeed true that Jesus warned his disciples and followers that only if you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, then it is also true that because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. Matthew 7. So if we don't have any of the religions of the world talking about self and talking about ensuring that God knows us and how we become known, then how is anyone expected to succeed? How is it? It can't be done. So I went through, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is a picture of a man and a white light going through a glass prism to where it is broken up into 7 primary colors. And the reason why I've got it pointed to the man is because of those circles and lines. So let me explain. Our true higher selves is white light. And white light is actually made up of 7 colors. In sound, it's 7 notes of the octave. So in order to house a 12-dimensional soul within our 3-dimensional being, it's broken up into separate colors. Not all of these colors are within the earthly kingdom. Some are still in the heavenly kingdom, growing and maturing at the same rate as the others. And like the fetus analogy, all must come to be mature at the same time. So when I understood that the 7 parts of the soul are intertwined with each other, but each have their own purposes, I understood that 7 was a very important number. In Revelation, we learn of the 7 churches and the 7 flames. The 7-branch menorah is 7 candles or lights, and God has 7 spirits. In 2020, I spoke to the Lord about these lights and colors. And why, if we're to die to flesh, are endorphins important? So in my study, I must have had that endorphins were coming up. And I'm asking him about endorphins, which means inside, within, eternal. Why is that so important? And how does that help my soul? And he said, they are intertwined when the portals are opened. The powers can come to be. So what some are calling chakras, or I don't even know what other words they would call them, God is calling them portals. And a portal is a gate or a door. And these portals must be opened in order to allow what is to come to be, not only in the physical, but the spiritual as well. So now we're coming back to the circles, and we're coming back to the lights, and we're coming back to other things. So he's calling it a portal, a gate or a door. Now remember the yellow card. It was number 4. 4 means Delet. Delet was door. I was following him to the center circle. This is all tying in to one another. So now how does this occur? How do I get to know myself? And how is it that all these areas are growing? You have one teacher, the true prophet, or logos, that dwells within the very core of your consciousness. The one. Now we've talked about the one. And I've showed you who the one was in Zechariah. The one will teach you by providing you what you need so you can learn and grow. One-on-one. You have one teacher. We talked about that years ago. Listen, he's the only one that knows where you are in the process and what you've already learned, because you've already learned some things in past lives and you're continuing to learn now. Your inner kingdom is growing. Your inner kingdom is growing. This is a one-on-one thing between you and God. You know, I asked God years ago, Lord, you know, I can't remember all the things that are happening at night. You know, how can I learn from it if I can't even remember it? And I was starting to get really worried about it. And you know what he told me? He said, your soul remembers. That's what he told me. So that means what my soul that's in the heavenly realm was learning and going, it remembers. So it is growing at the same time that I am growing here in the earthly realm. So here's a quote from John Holt, which I thought was very interesting, and I read this in a book. A gardener does not grow flowers. He tries to give them what he thinks they need, and they grow all by themselves. I thought that it just hit home to me. So Luke 17 says, and when he, meaning Yeshua, was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God comes not with observation. Neither shall they say, look here or look there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. So I continued to go on and just kind of discuss some things. And again, this is an image of a body, and I put the circles going up because it is, I'm just trying to give a visual as to what I'm understanding about everything. So our soul our true self remains a being of light, because at that level of creation, the division of male and female does not exist. And the 7 primary colors and notes remain as one. So remember the information that he said in the beginning. You know, it's not 2 or 3, it's one. It's one soul, but it's broken up into certain purposes and functions so that we can have part here on earth in a 3-dimensional reality. So it remains as one. But in the same way that the light of the Creator God is comprised of the 7 primary colors, so too is each spark of the divine mind that forms our individual souls. So we were a thought. We were created by Him by thought, by a spark of Him. We were given part of Him. So why were the individual souls created to come into being? If the alpha of creation, ignorance prevailed because, in the alpha of creation, ignorance prevailed because experience and knowledge from that experience did not exist. And without knowledge based on actual experience, true knowledge and knowing cannot exist. So individual souls came into this existence so that creation could emerge out of the alpha and unknowing and begin to possess actual knowledge and knowing based upon experience. As the individual souls begin to interact, experience and knowledge comes into existence. And through this body of experience and knowledge, creation itself began to move toward the omega of enlightened light and knowing. So our soul, or our mind, logos soul, is a spark of the mind and logos of God. The divine pattern of the mind of God is also replicated in your soul and soul mind. Now, I know that sounds weird, soul mind. How about the eyes of your heart? How about the memories of your heart? It's all there. What does this mean? It means that you are a divine being. You are a divine being. You are not a body that houses a soul. You are a divine being that is housed by several vessels in many lifetimes to learn and mature so that you can return home to Him. You are not defined by this lifetime or any other lifetime. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are not who you see in the mirror. God breathed life into you. The divine spark of Him, the One, is in you and is you. You and He are the same. You are part of Him. And in essence, if you think about it, you are Him. Because the logos equals the mind, equals the speech, and that's in Strong's 3056. So when we talked about the logos, it also means discourse, statement, speech, word, thought, judgment, understanding. And then several studies in the past I made some mention of. We need to be careful about what we're saying to people because he is in them as he is in you. And when you speak, you need to remember that you're speaking directly to him as well, but through them. So let's go back to the Gospel of Thomas, because there's really some interesting things in the Gospel of Thomas, and I'm thinking that you may get some answers through this video. So the Gospel of Thomas 13, and I'm putting this here to kind of offset what I said already about you and him are one. He is in you and he is you. You are part of him, and in essence, you are him. I want to say that because in the Gospel of Thomas, saying 13, Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare me to someone and tell me who I am like." And Simon Peter said to him, "You are like a righteous angel." Matthew said, "You are like a wise philosopher." But Thomas said to him, "Master, my mouth was wholly incapable of saying whom you are like." And Jesus said, "I am not your master. Because you have drunk, you have become intoxicated from the bubbling spring which I have measured out." And he took him and withdrew and told him 3 things. And when Thomas returned to his companions, they asked him, "What did Jesus say to you?" And Thomas said, "If I tell you one of the things which he told me, you will pick up stones and throw them at me. A fire will come out of these stones and burn you up." So Thomas learned some truth, and he understood a few things. And I'm sure I will hear about some of this at some point from others who will not be too happy about what I'm sharing, but I felt like it needed to be said. The next slide that I shared was actually just a picture of a tree of life. It has got the 12 lines and circles. 12 circles, many lines. But this is how I'm understanding with that thorn burr hedge, with the dream of the four bridges and all of that. This is where the Lord was leading me to. So and let me see if I can make this bigger. Here we go. I don't know that you can see it, but at least know that this is an image of the tree of life. Revelation 22:2. In the midst of the tree of it, in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for healing of nations. So the fruit of the tree is good for fruit, to take it physically or spiritually. Now, the image that I chose here is actually a tree next to a body of water, and you can see the inverted image in the water as a reflection, because it's not only for the earthly kingdom, but it's also for the heavenly kingdom. So you can take it either physically or spiritually. And if you take it in both ways, referring to both body and soul, the food of our risen life, the sustenance of our risen body and perfected souls, it is good. It is very good. It nourishes and cherishes. It imparts and sustains. It communicates its celestial properties to the whole being of the redeemed body, soul, and spirit. It bears 12 kinds of fruits, or rather 12 fruits, that is, harvests or crops. Like the orange tree among us now, it is always blossoming and always bearing. So the tree of life carries us back to paradise with its unfallen glory. It is the tree of righteousness in Isaiah 61, the plant of renown in Ezekiel 34, the tree of the old creation, and the tree of the new, the living and life-giving tree. There is the earthly tree and the heavenly tree, just as there is the earthly and the heavenly Jerusalem, the tree of the lower paradise and the tree of the upper paradise, but the glory of the terrestrial is one, and the glory of the celestial is another. Here we have celestial, and yet when we read this in connection with Ezekiel 48, we see that the two are connected, the one with the other, like the upper and the nether springs, like the higher and the lower stories of the great palace, like the outer and the inner courts of the great temple. This tree of life lines the river of life, extending like a fringe along its margin on both sides, and between it and the street shooting up like a long avenue of palms in the midst of Broad Street, through the center of which the river flowed. So I tried to bring in another picture. It's the same picture of the tree, just without the image in the back. And I wanted to put in Genesis 3:22, verse 24, but you all can open that up and read it. But it talks about in verse 22, but the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand, and he take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So what verse 22 is trying to indicate to us is that eating from the tree of life will enable us to live forever. So the next thing I wanted to show was just the journey of the soul. It is set up the same way as the tree of life with the 12 circles, but the center row has 7 circles. Now we talked about the number 7, and we talked about how important that number was. So this is the very bottom 3 or 4 of the center circle is the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, and then the kingdom of man, respectively, moving upward. So I put the image of the man again back behind to show you all that the point that I'm trying to make. So first off, that the physical body of a man has been formed out of the lower 3 kingdoms of this world, meaning the mineral kingdom, which is red, or what I identified as a red circle, the vegetable kingdom, which was this orange circle, and the animal kingdom, which is this green circle. And having emerged out of the initial womb of the physical mother, he has entered into the secondary womb of Mother Earth in order to bring about the next stage of birth as that of man in the 4th kingdom, which is this blue circle here. And then these 3 would be the spiritual kingdoms. So in the Gospel of the 12, or the Gospel of the Nazarenes, natural man is portrayed as a beast who walks in the form of man. Love you one another and all creatures of God, yet I say to you, not all are men who are in the form of man. Are they men or women in the image of God, whose ways of violence, of oppression and wrong, who choose a lie rather than the truth? No, truly, until they are born again and receive the spirit of love and wisdom in their hearts, then only are they sons and daughters of Israel, and being of Israel, they are children of God. So now I want to talk to you about the parable of the call of the wedding feast, and about those who did not put on that required wedding garment and would be cast out into outer darkness. And so the king said, friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment? And the person he was speaking to was speechless. And then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot, and take him away and cast him into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. And and again, for to everyone who has, more will be given, and will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So the first one was Matthew 22 with the call of the wedding feast parable. And then Matthew 25. So the outer darkness is really this part. These lower three kingdoms right here. The outer darkness is the womb of Mother Earth. The lower three kingdoms. And the requirement to bring about the next stage of birth is that wedding garment, which is really spiritual maturity. So man's inability to perceive and understand with wholeness is portrayed in the Gospels as the outer darkness of mind and being. So when we hear about the outer darkness, that's what we're talking about. So this is just an image, again, of the journey of the soul. I didn't do anything different except to break it off within the very top being the 12-dimensional spiritual kingdom for the first three of the center column. The bottom three of the center column was in the three-dimensional earthly kingdom. And then the one kingdom of man I left blocked off in the center, right in the middle. And I'm doing that for a reason, because I want to show you and talk to you all about something. So now there's a lot of writing on here and you probably can't see it, but I can talk to you about it. How many times have we said, God says, we'll meet you in the middle. We'll meet in the middle. You guys have heard that from me. You've heard it from many other people too. I think they have said it themselves. So I want to just say that, again, this middle section that is really only carving out this blue, and it really could incorporate these two purples as well, and I think I fixed it in another slide, is really the middle. This is the middle, because you got three up above, you got three down below. So this is the earthly kingdom, right? I've got earthly here. So the earthly kingdom can only go up as high as the kingdom of man. And the spiritual kingdom can only go down as far as the kingdom of man. So this middle right here, when we have heard that God has said, I will meet you in the middle, that's what this means. He's going to meet us in the middle. So let's talk about the parable of the prodigal son. So in the earthly kingdom, we know what the prodigal son was doing. He decides that even the scraps from his father's table would be better than where he was in the far country, and he made his return home. So he started to go home. But God, seeing his son approaching him afar off, ran to meet him, and he went to his son. Where did they meet? They met in the middle. They met in the middle. And when they met in the middle, Father hugged his son, gave him a ring and a coat, and the celebration feast was being prepared. So I wanted to incorporate that here to give you another support from what I'm talking about. So now, this is a little bit different because, let me see if I can bring this down just a little bit. Because I want you to understand here, and did I miss my, yeah, let's do this. I'm making symbolism here. It is still the journey of the soul, but now I've put a box around the center 7 because I want to draw your eyes to some other symbolism that's coming. When we're talking about Jacob's ladder, it was a ladder going from the earth to, and that the top of it reached heaven. Do you remember that? And it was the angels were ascending and descending in Genesis 28. That's what this is over here. This writing is just the scripture of Genesis 28, 11 through 21. So I put the word Jacob's ladder in the middle of this center column that I just put into a box, because symbolically that's what it is. And then I also did some other symbolism as well. And I took the spiritual top three, the center, and the spiritual bottom, or the earthly bottom three of the center column, and I broke those up. So that the top three was essentially the holies of holies of the tabernacle. The center was the inner court of the tabernacle. And the outer court of the tabernacle was the earthly. And again, just as symbolism as to what this could be also pointing to as well. So the circles that are coming down over and meeting in the middle of this journey of souls, this 12 circled thing, is merging directly in the middle. And we've talked about the merge and converge, and we've talked about the infinity symbol and how it looks like an 8 and what have you, but there is an overlap in the center. And I believe putting it here on top of this 7 column would be another way for me to bring it to your attention. So atonement is a particular word. We've said it a couple of times where it could be at one-ment. The condition of being at one with others, to be in harmony, to agree, to be in accordance, to literally be at one, or to bring at one to reconciliation. Hence, to suffer the pains of whatever sacrifice is necessary to bring about a reconciliation. It denotes unity or reconciliation, especially with God and man, to unite. So now remember what sacred meant in those bridges and what those words came up to be as synonyms, and you will identify that a lot of these words in the etymology of atonement are lining up with that. So Matthew 7, narrow is the road that leads to life, and only few find it. So enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go by in it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, there are few who find it. Remember, these circles are called portals by God. Portals are gates or doors. So what I've done is I've changed the word in the center box around the center column of 7. I've changed it to the narrow path because I believe that's what this is. Matthew 6, but first seek ye the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So I want to talk to you about this because I really think that this is going to help us understand Gospel of Thomas, verse 22. And it is basically the journey of the soul 12 with the box around the 7 center column. And what we're doing is the top 3 are the spiritual portals, but we're also identifying those as the top. And the bottom 3, which are the earthly portals, we're identifying as the bottom. And the whole center of 7, we're identifying as the inner, or the inside. The 3 on the outside, we're looking at male, or the outer. The 3 on the right side, we're looking at female, or outer. So let's talk and read about the Gospel of Thomas. In number 22, Jesus saw infants being suckled, and he said to his disciples, these infants are being suckled are like those who enter the kingdom. And they said to him, shall we then as children enter the kingdom? And Jesus said to them, when you make the 2 one, when you make the inside like the outside, and the above like the below, and when you make the male and the female one and the same, so that the male may not be male, nor the female, and when you fashion eyes in the place of an eye, and a hand in the place of a hand, and a foot in the place of a foot, and a likeness in place of a likeness, then you will enter the kingdom. So if I have top and bottom, inner, outer, male, female, and all of that identified from this same 12-point journey of the soul, then we can understand that a little bit better. To enter the center requires all 12 spheres of mind as patterned in the tree of life to be fully evolved and existing in a state of harmonic balance, which means the male and the female outer columns of the tree of duality must be brought together in the center, which can only be accomplished when the division of the upper 3 and the lower 3 spiritual centers are brought together to the center. Remember the bridge dream. I was following this guy to the center. Everything has to merge to the center. Everything. Everything. So this is going to be the same image. I didn't do anything different except to show you the candelabra, the 7 flamed candelabra, and where it is lining up to those lights. Because the soul is light. The flame of the candlesticks are light. It's all representing the same thing. So I want to show you this. This is the Star of David. So with respect to the 4th kingdom of man and the upper 3 heavenly kingdoms and the lower 3 earthly kingdoms, Manly P. Hull wrote in A Secret Teaching of All Ages, man's 3 bodies are symbolized by an upright triangle, his 3-fold spiritual nature by an inverted triangle, and these 2 triangles, when united in the form of a 6-pointed star, are called by the Jews the Star of David, the signet of Solomon, and more commonly known today as the Star of Zion. These triangles symbolize the spiritual and material universes linked together in the constitution of the human creature, who partakes in both nature and divinity. Man's animal nature partakes of the earth, his divine nature of the heavens, and his human nature of the mediator. So I did nothing more here than to put them all together as a visual to see if it sparks anything within you. This is still talking about Gospel 22 for Gospel of Thomas. And a lot of the information that I had has already been said before. So I want to finish this study with the sharing of something that I wrote after he spoke to me one day. And I've already shared this in the past. It's dated March 5th, 2019. But it was after about a week from me talking to him with one particular message that he gave. So in prayer last week, the Lord said something very profound to me. And he said, I will take care of you while on the earth. Now, I already knew this, and he has said this to me many times. But this particular day, it was the way in which he said it. And I knew, without a doubt, that I was absolutely in his hands. My trust is in him. My trust and innermost knowing is in him to do exactly what he has said he would do, to bring forth exactly as he has said he would bring forth. My trust is in the lover of my soul, the one who has promised to get me there and carry me through, the one who is full of grace and mercy, the one who is full of loving kindness and compassion. My healer, my teacher, my provider, my protector. It matters not what happens, for if I'm sick, he'll heal me. If I walk through things, he is with me. If I am to speak, he gives me the words. If I am lost, he will find me. If I am hungry, he will feed me, clothe me, sustain me. He is one who will enable me to get there, to carry me through. He is one who will encourage me when I fail, pick me up when I fall, and wipe my tear away or my tears, only to capture each one of them. You know, when I'm distraught and I'm crying out to him, he lets me have my say, but then he ever so lightly says, my dove, and he waits for me to answer him. His words of comfort are ever ready, and his hand gently guides us along the way. He is with us, and even more so, he is for us. Do you know him? His heart is the most intriguing place to be, such a warm and lightness to him. He is always around, always offering guidance, and even just being a voice in the night when you need a friend. I know he is around to watch over me. He sends his angels to guard my way and ensure that I am lifted above the stones in the path. Do you know him? If I fall, he lifts me up. He tells me dust off and keep going. He gives out hints or nuggets of information to watch us dig into them and learn all about what he's trying to show us. When we're at the end of our rope, he's there to fill us. He gives us rest, helps us along the way. He is always warning of things upcoming to prepare, to ready us. He wants nothing to overwhelm us in any way. Do you know him? I stand still, he is there. I move forward, he is there. I follow the treasure trove of things he is showing us, and yet he is still there. He is constant, trustworthy, reliable, consistent. When we feel as though he may be far from us, it is not him that is moved. He's immovable. It is us that has strayed from him. His heart is always full of love for us. Do you know him? How can I adequately put into words all that he has shown me to be? I can recall a prayer to him one night back in 2011 or 2012. I said, Lord, show me your heart. In all these years, that is exactly what he has been doing, that very thing. These are things that are given unto me. They're given as a gift, as his heart is as deep as it is wide. There are many things I know about him that he has allowed me to see. But yet there is a multitude of things that I have yet to see, or know, or understand. A drop of rain in the mass of an ocean is probably what I know. But yet he is still there. Do you know him? He is more than just words on a page, music and worship, or even prayers at night. He is a being that has a heart and it is filled with love for you and I. His love for us is so strong. We can't even get in front of it in the full capacity, in the body that we are now. It would just be too overwhelming. We couldn't handle it. He has a voice. It's not been silenced. It's not been stopped. His voice is tender and soft when need be, firm when need be, understanding and full of compassion, always. Always. He has said things along the lines of your wealth in me, but most recently he has said your wealth in me has grown. Our wealth. Think about that. That's not the same wealth as the world thinks of wealth. He is my wealth, and I find my treasure, because that is where my heart is also. Do you know him? I stand still, he is there. I move forward, he is there. He is more than just words on a page. He gives us thoughts, ideas, things to do in life, to make things better, to succeed. Most think it's their own mere minds doing this, and they put a lot of stock in how smart they are. But little do they know it is Him who's watching over us and providing for us, showing us things to be able to walk forward. We learn His way in walking with Him. We learn His heart in being near Him. And we learn His voice by listening quietly to Him. Follow Him wherever He goes. Leave nothing in your way. Allow nothing to stop you. He is our all in all, and nothing in this life is worth not having Him. I am told to lay my burdens down, my hurts, my faults, my errors, my failings in life. He carries it for me and lifts my burdens and heaviness with one fell swoop. And as I think I have laid it all down, I read Scripture and have more understanding of things, only to find, I failed again. Even without me knowing it. I shudder to think of all the things I know not of, and that He Himself is covering me without even me knowing. But isn't that what He does? How can we think that we do not need Him in our life? How is that even possible? Can it be that our own blindness keeps us at bay to the one thing that can get us home? Have we listened to others and believed the lie that if we are good at heart, we'll get by? Does He know you? Does He really know you? Hold on to Him and watch for Him. Seek Him. Ask Him things and keep Him near. There is no other that can take His place. No other that can do the things that He can do and has done for us. He is there for us. So I guess if you've made it this far, you've stuck it out with me, and I appreciate that. I want to thank you for your time and your open minds, and the time that you're going to take to probably ask Father about this. I want to remind you that quite a few of the videos on my channel are all linking into this. These are things that He was showing us along the way. I love and appreciate y'all so much. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you all. And God bless you till we speak again.